Hi everyone. Yesterday, my son, for a book report, he was reading the book Columbine. And if you want to know the history of Columbine, it's a high school massacre that happened. It was one of the first mass shootings in a high school. And this one is very, very different than many other shootings because this was committed in a high school by a couple of teenagers, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold. So he was reading about it and we were discussing about mass shootings. And he was asking me, how is it in India? How is it around the world? And why is it so common that only the US has a very alarming rate of mass shootings? And it was a very difficult subject. He was making notes while listening to the audiobook. And it was a difficult conversation. I was telling him about knife attacks in China, and how people who have this deadly combination of access to weapons as well as mental health issues are creating a rampage. So whenever I have to send my child the next day after a mass shooting, it's just something I just can't even put words in. So today morning I get up to this news: schools closed and Maine residents on lockdown as police search for mass shootings suspect. Okay, if you see here, at least 16 were killed in the mass shootings in Lewiston, Maine. So I was pulling up some statistics. Less than 30 people were killed in homicides last year in the entire state of Maine. And in one night, in a matter of a couple of hours, more than half of those people have died. So just imagine what is happening. I wrote about this recently. Run, hide, or fight. Is that what our sweet America has come down to? Because if you see, a few days ago in Midtown Atlanta, there was an active shooter incident. A man had pulled a gun on several people in a doctor's office. When we have family living, working in areas where there is an active shooter situation, I cannot describe how it feels for the family members. I mean, I had friends who were there in those surrounding areas. And when you have to stay indoors, and especially like the shootout that has happened in Maine, as of now, there is news that the suspect is still at large. Imagine people who have needs that they have to go out, get something, all kinds of things, or they're stuck at work and they want to go back home. They're all right now ordered to stay put wherever they are. So here, if you see how positive action can curb the epidemic of gun violence and mass shootings, I've written about it extensively. Thoughts and prayers are not bulletproof. See, this is not a partisan issue. It is not Democratic versus Republican issue. The idea is, okay, you keep your guns, but there have to be stricter gun laws. What is happening between the lobbyists, the video game lobbies, the gun lobbyists, and Congress, that it is impossible for them to just do some kind of strict legislation where access to these kind of firearms, okay, these are the kind of assault weapons, okay, that people have access to with very, very little background checks. And especially there is no database that is connecting mental health issues to what is happening right now. And this gentleman right here, who is at large, who has been identified as a possible suspect, has a history of mental health issues. So this is a screenshot that I took from Facebook. If you see, the suspect has been identified as Robert Card. Police in Maine have identified the suspected shooter according to multiple law enforcement sources. If you see, the sources said he also has a mental health history, including a 2-week stay this summer at a mental health facility after he allegedly made threats about carrying out a shooting at a National Guard facility. So he has a history of military service and is a firearms instructor. That is what he does. He is less than 40 years old or just about 40 years old. He looks much older in this one, probably because I think he has some issues, and he clearly has some issues because, as you can see, the basic, imagine going up to somebody and shooting them to death. It's just the kind of lack of empathy is just so visible here. So please check these out, and I want to conclude with a video of a violent video game where assault weapons are being used, and I want you to hear the sound of this weaponry going off for 2 minutes. And this is what your young children, your teenagers, and mostly men who are playing these video games. Of course, there are women gamers as well, but this is what they are hearing if they are into violent video games. Thank you so much.
Ready. Fury kill. Bombers ready for orders. Allies called a bombing run. Incoming. Recon aloft. Attack dogs. Spies in the sky. Closing with bacon. We hold Baker. Hostile recon in the air. Spies in the sky. Recon mission ready. Find the bastards. Bloodthirsty. Recon. Bombers ready for orders. Double kill. Recon mission ready. Find the bastards. Recon along.
Don't look now.
Friendly glide bomber incoming. Bombers ready for orders. Recon airborne. Eyes up. Allies call the bombing run. Incoming. Friendly package inbound.
Alright. Let's move.
Double kill. Attack dogs ready for action.